The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Gangsters, what's up, guys?
John Anik, Kenny Florian.
Oh, my God!
Here are your hosts, John Anik and Kenny Florian.
Oh, is it good to be back? It is Monday, February 19th, 2018. Good to have you with us. It is the 144th episode of the Anik and Florian podcast, and for the first time in the history of this show, Ken Flo forgot his cell phone. I'm thrilled about it. Where's the celly today, kid? I mean, so you're borrowing someone else's cell phone. What a mess. What a mess.
144th episode. My second episode with a baby, and I've lost it. I grabbed a T-shirt like from the floor. I got sweatpants on. Don't have my cell phone with me. I'm a mess. I don't even know what's going on.
I mean, it's pretty amazing how good you can make a T-shirt off the floor look, but 10 days as a father. 10 days, ladies and gentlemen. And the guy shows up here, 9:41 a.m. Pacific time. He's got no cell phone today. So he has to listen to every goddamn word I have to say. I apologize for that. In fairness, though, before we get to your beautiful daughter, True, and she is beautiful, man. I mean, newborns aren't always that way, so I'm not just saying that.
Thank you.
But this is a quick turn for you, right? You got post-fight show Sunday night. Special Sunday nighter, of course, for the MMA leader. So you finish the post-fight show, you go home, you change a few diapers, right back at it. So, there's a pardon there. I understand why you don't have the celly this morning.
Well, I'm not going to complain to you, okay? You got two girls. You know what that's like. You've traveled all over the world. You're the last person I'm going to complain to today, okay?
All right, so you get home from the post-fight show last night. Is your daughter awake? What are you walking into?
She was asleep. No, she was being fed when I walked in. She was being fed, and then I got up probably around midnight to change her diaper, and then put her back, got back in, then had to burp her a little bit, and then she got up, and I guess a few hours after that. But my wife was up 3 times after that, so
It's like, welcome to your new life. Well, Good stuff. It was a pretty good show in Austin. We're going to recap that whole thing. Also, UFC back on Big Fox in Orlando this Saturday night. So Ken Flo's got 7 picks for you today, and he's got to make them on Monday. And I say this laughing because he texted me on our show last week. He picked Marcin Tybura to beat the Black Beast Derek Lewis. And because we pick on Monday, as many of you know, he does reserve the right to change his pick. So the kid went and watched some film and changed it up to the Black Beast, which ended up being a 3-point swing for you in the standings, right? Because
Lucky, though.
Instead of actually, it was 2 points, I guess, because he was an underdog, a slight underdog. Yeah, fortunate, certainly, to walk away with those 2 points. But it is tough for you making these Orlando picks when you just buried Austin a few hours ago. But, I'm not the fun police, so you're going to make those picks today, and that's just the way it goes. Before we do get to headlines, I also wanted to mention, how about Nate Diaz on the broadcast, right? With the L in hand, or it wasn't in hand, I guess, initially, but he thought it would make the shot, and he was right about that, I guess.
Yeah, he was. Well, first of all, let's put it into context. We come off of Derek Lewis saying he's going to go deep on his wife, and then what do? They pan to the crowd. They pan to the crowd. You see Nate Diaz with a cannon in his mouth and a lighter, just getting ready to go. And I turned to one of our coordinating producers. She's from Texas, and I go, "Hey, is weed legal in Texas?" She goes, "It's the farthest thing from legal in Texas." And I was like, "Yeah, Nate Diaz, keeping it 100."
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing
that I saw this
He's
morning.
a G.
I was long since asleep by the time all of that stuff went down, of course, but I woke up and watched all of it today and thinking, why can't I be calling the fights when they show Nate Diaz with a blunt in his hand, right? To have a chance to, lend something to that conversation, but wasn't meant to be.
Yeah.
So a lot to get to. Obviously, we'll recap Austin. We'll get you picks on Orlando. James Vick probably going to join us in about 15 minutes or so. He moved to 9-1 in the UFC by beating Francisco Trinaldo last night. So bunch of shit to get to.
Yeah.
Ken Flo's late with no cell phone. We're against the clock already. Let's get to headlines.
Headlines.
It's time for headlines.
I have some very urgent and important breaking news.
Headlines.
On the John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
All right, so main event, Donald Cowboy Cerrone went in L3. Yancy Medeiros went in W3, and now Medeiros' winning streak goes by the boards. He loses to Donald Cerrone here with 2 seconds to go in the first round. Kenny, I know you broke down the hell of this thing on the post-fight show. I loved the main event on paper. I didn't necessarily love the way it played out. I don't love those in-round hugs.
Yeah.
You go to Kenny Florian, search Kenny Florian on UFC Fight Pass. You will never see him hug an opponent during a round ever. Your thoughts, though, on a big bounce-back performance for Cerrone and Medeiros' winning streak, of course, going away.
Yeah, let's talk about the hugging thing first of all.
Great.
You know, Yancy Medeiros, he's the nicest guy in the world. But don't hug your opponent during a fight, okay? You're out there to fight, and you can't do that against Donald Cerrone. I remember when I saw his fight against Matt Brown, and Matt Brown was doing excellent against him, was winning the fight, or doing extremely well. They go into the third round. Matt Brown was kind of playing the bad guy all the way up until the third round. Mm-hmm. They hug, and you just see Donald Cerrone's shoulders just kind of relax, and he just got into his groove, and shortly after, he knocked him out. Donald Cerrone doesn't like that stress. He's a guy that gets very worked up before and during a fight. I think that his nerves kind of get the better of him. That's why a lot of times you kind of see him get off to these slow starts a little bit. Yes, he's got a ton of first-round knockouts, but he can start fights very tight. I've seen him backstage. This guy throws up backstage. He gets very nervous. He cries sometimes. Is he a badass? 100%. But he's most comfortable when he's playing the buddy-buddy role. It just puts him at ease and allows him to go out there and do what he does best. So you kind of have to play that mean guy, kind of like what Nate Diaz did to him. He wasn't giving him any respect. There were no hugs. There were no high fives. Don't do that in a fight, period. But certainly don't do that against Donald Cerrone. And I think as soon as that happened, it seemed like Donald Cerrone was just in his element. And Yancy Medeiros got off to a great start. I believe he started the fight southpaw, then switched back to righty, switched to southpaw maybe for a few seconds here and there. I thought he should have stayed southpaw. I was surprised that he didn't say southpaw for the remainder of the fight, but he did get knocked down. He didn't put his lead foot on the outside of the lead foot of Donald Cerrone. He got cracked with a right hand down the middle, got back to his feet as we knew he would, but once Donald Cerrone found his rhythm, once he started letting his combinations flow, you know, he just took Yancy out. And he did it with boxing. I was surprised that he didn't use his kicking game. Donald Cerrone showed some sharp boxing at the end of that round, won that fight just before the end of that first round. And, yeah, he is back on track, man. He's a beast.
And it looks like Donald Cerrone wants to go to 155 pounds, and we're going to get to James Vick, Kenny, but a guy like that would love to get his mitts on someone like Donald Cerrone at whatever stage of their career. So there are going to be big fights at lightweight if Cerrone indeed wants to move down. And again, I just think in that top 10 at welterweight, there are a lot of guys that present a lot of problems for Cerrone. So if the weight cut isn't too much, he hasn't gone through it all that much recently, so maybe that helps a little bit as he tries to go back down. To me, he looks sturdier, though, so I don't know exactly how easy that is going to be. On the other side, Kenny, Yancy Medeiros, to me, this is disappointing, right? I understand the appeal of a main event against Cerrone, especially on the heels of that huge fight and performance against Alex Cowboy Oliveira last December, but this thing came together very quickly, and as soon as it was announced, I think a lot of people in the Medeiros camp probably thinking, man, this is a quick turnaround after that type of fight. And a 5-round fight, you know, not that Yancy looks like Sage Northcutt, but he looked a little bit soft to me. I don't know what kind of shape he was in, if he needed to go 5 rounds here. And I don't know. I just felt like this was Medeiros' window to see just how far he could take it. And I don't know, sometimes when a guy's momentum is halted like this, you sort of feel like other guys strategically would not have taken this fight. They would have tried to preserve the win streak and focused on contention as opposed to just entertaining and chasing bonus.
It's an excellent point. And, you know, anytime you get offered a fight from the UFC or anytime you get offered a fight, period, you have to look at all the advantages and disadvantages. And I think that the advantages outweighed the disadvantages here. You know, for Yancy Medeiros, you know, for him, when would he have gotten another chance at a main event in the UFC? And I think that, you know, the fact that he was going against another quality striker in Donald Cerrone, he liked his chances there. You know, he trains with a guy or has trained with a guy in Nate Diaz who has fought him before and beat him. And, you know, one other time are you going to be able to fight Donald Cowboy Cerrone when he's on a 3-fight losing streak? However, style matchup, this is why I picked Cerrone. I didn't think it was the best style matchup for him. Coming off of that freaking war with Cowboy Oliveira, maybe not the best decision. But, again, you take risks as a fighter. I thought it was probably worth that risk. You know, there were a certain amount of people that thought Yancy was going to win the fight, and he definitely could have. He was starting off really, really well. But once Cowboy got in his groove, man, it was pretty much over.
You bring up a lot of good points, and there was ample preparation time. It's not as though this was 3 or 4 weeks, but you just don't know how quickly he was able to get hard back into it. And you're right. certainly more pros than cons to taking this fight, and he did get off to a good start as a perpetual slow starter. And again, the narrative could be totally different if Medeiros had gotten him out of there. You know, I have no issues really with the stoppage. I don't know how much you guys talked about that on the post-fight show. But Yancey obviously was disappointed after the fact. Nice moment there with Medeiros and Cerrone's grandmother, of course, just too friendly for me at times when it was going on. And I say that with all due respect, you know, a little fat Jewish kid sitting here in South Florida, right? But I mean, I feel like I have so much respect for Yancey. He literally is Mr. Congeniality, right? One of the nicest guys on the roster, got personal relationships with all these guys, but I check out when I see that pre-round hug a little bit is all I'm trying to say.
And it's a great point. For me, I mean, how do you become that friendly with your opponent and their opponent's families and all that stuff and go out there and go, yeah, I'm ready to hurt that guy? You know what I mean? It's hard to take that full step forward. For me, anyway, I don't understand it as well. But interestingly enough, Cowboy, after that fight, seemed to be a little disappointed as well. You know, we talked to him, and he said, you know, I should be excited. I'm happy I got the win. You know, I was on a losing streak, obviously, but I felt like I should have got off to a better start. I don't know what I need to do to get that good start consistently. You know, he seemed like he was a little disappointed himself as well, but Yancey will be back. Cowboy will be back. You know, I think this is a good opportunity for Yancey to look at maybe his mental state heading into this fight and go, did I give too much of myself here? Was I too nice? Do I need to go out there with more of a killer attitude? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's what works for Yancey, and he just got caught. That could absolutely be the case.
First time I ever remember thinking Cerrone looked a little bit older and a little bit slower. So I'm very curious to see what his next fight will be and who it will be against. All right, that brings us to the Black Beast in the co-main event. Derek Lewis, a performance of the night bonus winner, TKO victory over Marcin Tybura. And I'd love to start with the fight, but when the guy says during his post-fight interview after the fact, April, get ready, I'm going deep. You lead with that. So I'm not going to bury the lead. Man, I don't know if he has a podcast, this Derek Lewis, but if you're a movie producer, I'd find something for this guy to do. And nice to see, not just in Texas, but this guy is starting to develop a real following. I know you love the guy on Instagram. And Derek Lewis with a nice rally for the TKO, $50,000 bonus, and the post-fight goodies to boot.
The dude is hilarious, and man, does he have a right hand from hell, dude. I mean, every right hand he threw, I think he landed and he dropped Marcin Tybura. Tybura, move your head, man. Move your head, move your feet. You know, he has a good kicking game, but needs to work on his boxing big time. You know, when you're facing a guy like Derek Lewis, get out the way. And for Derek Lewis, man, he's got to improve his wrestling and he has to improve his jiu-jitsu. You cannot turn your back that many times and expect to get out of it. And for Marcin, he's got to be kicking himself today going, how did I not submit that guy? I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. Derek Lewis, I don't even know if he's a blue belt. He's strong as hell. He can move really well. But, man, I mean, how do you not finish that? How do you not, you know, get a TKO or a submission from those positions that he was in? So, yeah, it had to be disappointing for him. You know, that's exactly what he needed to do. He wasn't able to capitalize. Derek Lewis, he did. You know, anytime he was able to get on his feet, he was hurting Marcin, made the best of those moments. And it's just amazing how Derek Lewis can go from doing absolutely nothing to having a window of like 8 seconds and being able to knock down or knock out his opponents. He has that kind of freakish power. Yeah, I'm glad I got away with picking him last second there.
It is that throwback, break your face open type of power, right? I remember, I think he knocked out Guto in a cinch early on in his UFC career, and it just, you know, when an opponent's on the ground, he throws one of those right hand, literally brutal. Separate your face wide open. So no denying the power. I'm not sure the ceiling on Derek Lewis is as high as maybe I once thought it was. You've seen not only Marcin Tybura, but even Shamil Abdurakhimov back in the day out grapple and out wrestle Derek Lewis. And I think there are ways to match make him to get him into the top 5 and potentially into a title eliminator type fight. I know maybe some people calling for a fight between Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou now. Take my money, sure. But I think you got to be strategic if you're Mick Maynard here with how you match up the Black Beast, because I think a lot of guys, if they get Derek Lewis down, Kenny, they'll find a way to, you know, head and arm choke him or pound him out of there. At least to this point, he's survived in these compromising situations against, you know, high enough level opponents to get some wins and keep his position in the top 10. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I am one of those people who would like to see him fight Francis Ngannou. Excuse me. He's a guy who's, I don't know how good he is on the ground. Of course, he has a Kimura win, but to me, he didn't show those ground skills against Stipe Miocic, obviously. So I think he's a guy who's going to be willing to trade with anybody. Both those guys are capable of knocking each other out. I think that's a fight that makes a lot of sense. Derek Lewis has been calling him out. Is Overeem matched up with anybody, John?
No, he's not.
That's another possible option. Both those guys coming off a loss, obviously. I think it makes sense.
That a lot. Yeah, and maybe the calendar would align. I don't know how soon we're going to see Francis Ngannou right now. We'll table a James Vick Trinaldo discussion because James should join us here in a few minutes. Curtis Millender with a big win over Thiago Alves by knockout in his UFC debut. You're right. You don't want to put too much into this, Kenny, but as far as debut performances go, almost had 2 walk-off knockouts within 1 win. I got my eyes on Curtis Millender after what I saw this weekend.
I do as well, man. This kid from Orange County is something else, man. I sometimes you go back and you watch tape and you go, okay, well, big deal. He's a striker. It seems like he's okay, whatever. And then he goes out and competes in the UFC. He's a completely different guy. So he's been working on something. He's been sharpening his skills. I guarantee you that, because that wasn't the guy that I saw on tape. He did not look that sharp and that confident. And sometimes when you get the call from the big show, it either can make you or break you. This has made him. He got the call from the UFC. He said he was crying on the phone. He said he scared his kids. He was yelling and he was so excited. He said everybody, exactly. He said everyone he talked to, he was basically crying. He was so excited. And I said, I don't know, man. I don't know if this guy's going to, maybe he's going to let the UFC debut get the better of him. Not the case. This brought the best out of him. He looked sharp. He was an absolute assassin from the outside. Rarely let Alves get on the inside. When he did, he ate a few leg kicks. He was limping after that fight for sure, as a lot of people have over the 12-year career that Thiago Alves has been fighting. But, man, he just looked like he was at a different level than Alves. This was a different breed of fighter. It was good to see. Millender seems like a great guy. I mean, 6'3", 170 pounds, wrestling background. I think he could be something in this division, man. Boy, did he look sharp. For me, he was the most impressive fighter all night.
Yeah, no, certainly. Let's see. Yeah, he did get a bonus and deservedly so. And it was interesting hearing some of the broadcasts when it came to the first chance he had, Kenny, in that first round to get Thiago Alves out of there, right? Because in one breath you can say it was premature celebration, but I think this is also a guy who has a pretty good understanding for the damage that he's doling out. And he didn't miss on that second walk-off KO, right? And I don't think it comes from some great urgency to live up to his nickname, to be courteous or whatever, right? Or to be some great sportsman. I just think he knows, and he knew that second time. So I didn't really fault him for what happened in the first round. I just thought that Thiago Alves did a nice job staying in the fight and then throwing leg kicks after the fact to show the referee that he was still somewhat in the fight. So nice win for Curtis Millender. And again, at 170 pounds, it's just every fight's interesting. So I'm excited to see what they choose to do with him next. I love these Mississippi kids, Kenny. Brandon Davis and Steven Peterson turn in the fight of the night. It's a win by unanimous decision for Brandon Davis. And this was, of course, exactly what he needed after going 15 minutes with Kyle Bochniak in Boston not all that long ago. I love these Mississippi kids, man. I really do. There's just a toughness there. Davis wants one fight a month, and I think that it. And again, when he fought Kyle Bochniak, he's got one hip, right? He's got one good leg, and then he turns around here. Some of these guys, Kenny, are of a mindset and a mentality that, if I'm 70%, I'm lucky. I'm a fighter. I fight anyone, and I fight monthly. And I just absolutely love this kid's attitude.
It's a tough sport, man, and has a lot of tough people. One of those people is Brandon Davis. And how about Peterson as well? How tough is that dude? He eats a knee to the face. It splits him open, and he looks up and goes, "Oh, let's go. Bring it." It was unbelievable. This kid is tough as nails. Both these guys, on the weigh-in show, I said, a lot of people don't know about these guys, but the way that both these guys fight, it's a perfect matchup. These guys, it could be fight of the night. They absolutely delivered. They basically just stayed in the pocket. There was some nice movement from Brandon Davis. I think he needs to get his head movement in order a little bit better. Man, this was just a back and forth fight. We saw some ground action, some action on the feet. These guys were beaten up and bloodied up at the end of the fight and just truly delivered a spectacular fight, man.
Yeah, so that was very fun to watch. Nice waking up and watching that today. So Brandon Davis, big win. We'll see if they can turn him around quickly. He was very appreciative, too, of Sean Shelby and the promotion for turning him around quickly and giving him an opportunity, because I don't know if there are 100 featherweights on the roster, but at 45, at 55, at 70, it's hard to get a fight, I think, for a lot of guys, right?
Yes.
If you're one of the lesser names, right, if you do the math, I think it averages out to, with all the slots per year, 41 UFC shows, 13 fights a show, 26 times 41. It's about 1.6 fights per fighter per year. And I like that Davis understood that and is appreciative of the promotion, giving him a slot when there are a lot of featherweights out there, maybe going 7-8 months without a fight. Because maybe they turn someone down at times or they aren't ready at other times. Mississippi's ready. We got Mississippi Mean and Mississippi Ready. I think I'm going to try to call Brandon Davis Mississippi Ready. Let's see if it sticks. Sage Northcutt, Thibaut Gouti. I didn't see all of it. Hit that fast forward a little bit this morning as I was getting prepped for the show. I know there was some back and forth a little bit on Twitter as to Sage Northcutt's performance and this decision. So I guess when I was watching, maybe I thought Gouti might have deserved it 2-1, but I don't have a huge issue with Northcutt the other way 2-1. And when you look at the numbers, it seemed like Thibaut Gouti didn't do a whole lot when it came to striking at all. So your thoughts on that fight and ultimately who you thought should have gotten the
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about those numbers. 111 strikes for Sage Northcutt to 29 strikes landed for Gouti.
Right.
Okay, so just that alone, it's like, okay, you know, I'm not a big stats guy, but that's pretty significant. 111 to 29, and people were saying, well, it looked like Gouti hurt him in the first round or he knocked him down. Okay, yeah, he knocked him down. It wasn't necessarily a shot where he rocks Northcutt, Northcutt's messed up, and he kind of stumbles to the mat. It was not like that. It was more of something like, yes, he cracked him. Yes, it was a knockdown. He was off balance. I've been the guy, I've criticized Sage Northcutt. You remember, at one point I said, hey, listen, maybe he should leave the UFC, get experience, get better, get some fights under his belt, then come back in. Listen, I don't have a problem with his decision. I really don't. It was a close fight, absolutely. But when you go into a gym, okay, and you want to learn something about hand-to-hand combat, all right, Anik, and if you came in, I go, hey, John, listen, this is what I'm going to show you how to beat up or defend yourself. What you're going to do is you're going to hold someone's legs and you're going to stay there. Can you win a fight if you're just hugging someone's legs?
Right. No, I get it.
No, you know, you got to go out there and try to get the win. Try to submit someone. Try to hurt them with punches. You know what I mean? That's not going to do anything. You're not doing any damage. And for me, it was Sage Northcutt he had his legs tied up, and he was the one punching, throwing elbows, and Gouti was just sitting there. You can't be disappointed with the decision if you land 29 strikes over 15 minutes to your opponent's 111, and when you do get him on the ground, never get one superior position and just be hugging two legs for the whole fight. It's not going to happen. I don't know. I don't know why people had a major problem with it. Here's the thing: people hate Sage Northcutt. That's what it is. People hate him for whatever reason. He's the nicest kid ever. It's been tough for me to criticize him, but he has improved. He has matured. I think Team Alpha Male has been a great fit for him, and he will continue to improve and get better. And this is one of those fights where you get 15 minutes of solid action to learn from.
It's amazing. I mean, he's 10-2. He has accrued all this UFC experience. I think he was born in 1996.
He's 21. You know?
Yeah, I mean, and you know the work ethic is there, right? You know your boy Tyron Woodley just raved about this kid and physically what he brought to the table, so you don't have to worry about that. He's done a lot of body preservation, so I think he's a guy who longevity probably won't be an issue for unless he absorbs a lot of shots to the head. But it's not as though, granted, his level of competition being what it has been, and it is not good if you combine his opponent's records, especially in the UFC. But it's not as though he's absorbing a lot of concussive damage, right? You know, he's getting a lot of things accomplished in these fights. So, again, Sage Northcutt, Thibaut Gouti on the main card. They go the distance. Unanimous decision nod for the developing Sage Northcutt. Any prelim guys you want to shout out? I know it was a big weekend for Octagon MMA down there in Texas. Saif Saud, Carlos Diego Fajeda, Jeff Neal with a nice win. The Bulldog choke there over Brian Camozzi. Anybody on the prelims worth a mention here from the flow? I know you were sitting in the studio, so you watched all these fights. Carlos Diego Fajeda over Jared Gordon, Jeff Neal. Who do you like?
Carlos Diego Fajeda, man. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about some jiu-jitsu here. It was brilliant. It looked like he had this arm wrapped up and he was going to go for a monoplata something Marcelo Garcia used to do very well, but he didn't. He went for the forearm, got this kind of chicken wing police officer grip on poor Jared Gordon, man, and he had it wrapped up, punching him in the head. I like things where you just have complete control and complete domination on the ground over your opponent, where you have the arms tied up, you can punch him, you can submit him, and Carlos Diego Ferreira really showed his level of jiu-jitsu there against a tough Jared Gordon. Took him out early. People always sleep on the striking, it seems, of Ferreira. Was able to land that shot in tight. He has got heavy hands, man. He's done this before. This is kind of a signature win for him.
And he has good coaching, too. And he beat Olivier Aubin-Mercier as a similarly priced underdog, I remember back in the day. I didn't work this show, so I wasn't completely diving in on it. But this was the betting line that surprised me the most by a mile. Jared Gordon was like a minus 250 favorite. And I didn't know if it was the layoff for Carlos Diego Ferreira. But this is a credentialed fighter. And obviously, you're right, a signature win for Jared Gordon over the weekend. Well, support for the Anik and Florian, or not for Jared Gordon, Jesus Christ.
Over Jared Gordon,
yeah. For Carlos Diego Ferreira. Well, support for the Anik and Florian podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They understand that home plays a big role in your life and family. That's why they created Rocket Mortgage. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. It's simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or your 10th, with Rocket Mortgage, you get a transparent online process that gives you the confidence to make an informed decision. It's convenient. Our trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. And in addition to getting a real mortgage approval in minutes, you can even adjust the rate and length of your loan in real time to make sure you're getting the right solution for you. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Anik, rocketmortgage.com/ANIK, equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. All right, we will get to the main event challenge here shortly, but I just want to update the standings, and I'm sure if Ben Wirtz Kenny is listening right now, he's not all that thrilled to know that you were able to change Marcin Tybura to Derek Lewis, but that's the way it goes. So Team Anik led Team Florian 17-10 going into that UFC Austin show. So you change it up to the Black Beast, so you get 2 points there. He was a slight underdog when we picked. So you both hit on Lewis, you both hit on James Vick, you both hit on Sage Northcutt, Brandon Davis. You had Cerrone by second round TKO. So you got the method of victory, a point there, a point for Cerrone, just missing on the round. Ben did have Yancy Medeiros. He did get Curtis Millender, though, as an underdog against Thiago Alves. So it all ends up a tie, 7-7. So it's 24-17. Team Anik has the lead heading into UFC Orlando. With that, let's get ready to make some picks.
It's the main event challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights! I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The main event challenge. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
You know, 24-17 ain't bad, so we're going to take it. We're going to take that 24-17. And Ben, just let me know when our guest picker is ready. And James Vick, by the way, bumping things back an hour. So, I mean, Kemflo's got a 10-day-old, and James Vick's making you wait an hour. But I do want to hear from the Texecutioner. I guess it was Sam Sicilia who gave him the nickname, the Texecutioner, back in the day. I don't love the nickname. Love the fighter, though.
I would have loved to seen the Texecutioner versus the Mexicutioner at some point. To just see that executed.
Was that Joey Beltran, the Mexicutioner? Yeah. How about that? Yeah. All right, well, I was going to get into a little Jeremy Stevens, Josh Emmett breakdown, but we'll save it here for the main event challenge because joining us to make picks today, Coral Springs, Florida, on the Anik and Florian podcast, Matt. And this man, Kenny, will be inside the Amway Arena for the show this Saturday night. He has made picks against the Flow before, and you guys fought to a draw back in the day. John ZAITSCHEK is with us. John, how are you, man?
Doing good. How's everyone?
We're doing well, man. Is it ZAITSCHEK or ZAITSCHEK?
It's both.
Oh, okay. That's a good answer, man. That's a good answer. We went through that drill probably last time you were on the show. Let's get to some picks here. We got a lead here, John, and hopefully you can help me maintain it. First fight on the main card, Platinum Mike Perry. Not white gold, folks. Platinum Mike Perry. Home game here. He is the minus 320 favorite against Max Payne Griffin. Griffin, the plus 240 underdog. So Perry certainly with more UFC experience, at least at a high level, coming off that loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio back in December. John, your thoughts on this fight here between Mike Perry and Max Griffin, and ultimately who gets the W this weekend?
Okay, and let me start by saying that picture that's going to be up on the screen of me right now is with Dana White, and I chose that picture in honor of President's Day today.
Yeah. Nice.
Wow, that's good stuff right there.
So Perry, he was in a war just about 2 months ago with Santiago, so that concerns me a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I don't see Griffin being able to hurt him. If Perry's going to be coming back this quickly, this was the right type of fight for him to take to get back in the win column. Plus, it's a home game. So I got to go with Mike Perry by second round TKO.
Yeah, that's a good point, John, and that shouldn't be lost on anyone, Kenny, the nature of that fight against Ponzinibbio, which was less than 2 months, about 2 months ago as we sit here on February 19th. On the other side, Max Payne Griffin, the plus 240 underdog, 1-2 in the UFC, coming off a loss to Eligio Zaleski dos Santos. No shame in that. That dude's an absolute beast. But Kenny, Perry and Griffin here to kick off the main card on Fox this weekend. Your thoughts?
I like Perry in this one as well. I think he just hits a little bit harder than Max Griffin. Has more experience in the UFC. I think that's going to make a difference. But yeah, especially given the fact that, he was limping pretty bad in that fight against Ponzinibbio. His leg seemed like it was pretty messed up. Hopefully it wasn't a knee injury and it was just kind of a bruised leg. But yeah, I got to go with Perry here.
Platinum Mike Perry, the prohibitive favorite, the pick for both John and Ken Flo. All right, next up, a fight that I think was supposed to go down in Charlotte a few weeks ago. It will be done in Orlando this weekend. Ovince St. Preux, slightest of favorites here against Ilir Latifi. So OSP minus 125, Latifi at minus 105. And again, you look at the rankings at light heavyweight, John. Big one potentially here at 205 pounds. The question is, who gets it, St. Preux or Latifi?
So I wouldn't quite call him a gatekeeper, but to me, OSP is the litmus test for the light heavyweight division. I think he's going to be too much for Latifi, who hasn't always had his best showings when he stepped up the competition. So OSP uses wrestling, and he'll grind out an easy decision.
So Ken Flo, St. Preux on paper has won his last three. Marcos, Rogerio de Lima, Yushin Okami. Knocked out Corey Anderson back in November, a fight in which he probably would have ended up on the wrong side of the scorecards had it gone the distance. Latifi, that win over Tyson Pedro looks better by the day. That was back in September, UFC 215, I believe. Yeah. So both guys with some momentum here, and that's why I say potentially this fight is a sneaky big one here at light heavyweight, especially with the current champion moving up to heavyweight. Latifi and St. Preux. Also, I would think, Kenny, a good betting fight for some people because you're not paying a big price on either side. But the listeners want to know, of course, which side does the flow fall on?
St. Preux has some decent takedowns. He does not take Ilir Latifi down, in my opinion. I think Latifi, being as low to the ground as he is and kind of having that wrestling background, formal wrestling background, I don't think St. Preux is going to be able to take him down. Latifi is extremely strong, low to the ground. I think he hits harder than St. Preux as well. I think St. Preux is probably a little bit better on the ground when it comes to submissions. Latifi's going to be tough to put on his back. I think Latifi wins this one.
All right, Latifi for Ken Flo. I like that you guys are on different sides of it. All right, I'm excited for this co-main event. Legitimately very excited for this fight. So Jessica Andrade minus 285. Tisha Torres entrenched as a plus 220 underdog. I'm not sure this betting line gives Torres, Kenny, the credit that she deserves. I understand Andrade deserves to be the favorite here, and the resume speaks for itself, but Tisha Torres, 6-1 in the UFC, only lost to Rose Namajunas. So I was surprised to see just how pronounced it was. Maybe, of course, because Jessica Andrade beat Claudia Gadelha back in September, which is as big a name as this division has that is a non-champion. What do you think, John, about this fight? Any value on Tisha Torres in that plus 220 range for you?
All right, let's have some fun now. So Andrade, she looked like a world beater in that last fight with Gadelha, but
she did.
Torres may have the secret weapon here. In 2015, her significant other, Raquel Pennington, beat Andrade by submission. Although it was a different weight class, I still think that's beneficial for Torres in this camp. And if not, it sure sounds good. But I think Torres' time is now to earn the title shot. So I'm going to say Torres wins the same way Raquel did, rear naked choke in the second round.
That's good analysis there, too, and I hadn't thought about the Raquel Pennington angle. In Jessica Andrade, Kenny, you have a fighter who I mean, she could win a UFC belt in 3 divisions, right? Obviously, she would give up a ton of size to Amanda Nunes, but this is a fighter who certainly at 115 and now at 125 pounds is a fighter that you got to think is going to get back to a title fight, if not be a UFC champion one day. But Torres, the only time she finished a fight in the UFC against Juliana Lima was relatively short notice. This fight came together relatively quickly. Yeah. I think Tisha is in very good current form. Is that enough for you, Kenny, given our scoring system, to go with Torres, or do you like Jessica Andrade to hold serve here as the fave?
Well, the thing is that when Pennington beat her, that was at 135 pounds, right? So I think Andrade going down in weight, she's going to be a problem, man.
Two classes, yeah.
Yeah, so I think for Tisha Torres, I think she's the more technical striker. She's the trickier striker. There's no doubt about that. She's not easy to be taken down. I think the pressure and strength, though, of Andrade in that division is just significant. I don't think there's anyone who really can match the sort of aggression and power that Andrade brings at 115 pounds. I just don't. And I think she's going to be able to hit a lot of takedowns that people get close on. I think Andrade is going to be the woman who can hit those takedowns, keep her on the ground. It seems like she just gets stronger as the fight goes on, no matter who she's going against. Yeah. Yeah, I see Andrade grinding out another win.
It's a very interesting fight in a very interesting division, and obviously the belt is going to be on the line April 7th, the rematch between Namajunas and ZAITSCHEK.
And I think very highly of Tisha Torres. Like you said, I think she's very underrated. I think she's a fantastic striker with a good ceiling. So I just don't like this matchup for her.
Sure. And maybe this Andrade matchup, and I shouldn't say the matchup, but the nature of the fight and the stakes of the fight, a co-main event on Fox, will bring out the best of Tisha Torres. There's no denying the skills, the cardio skills. She's got the mean streak. I'd like to see Tisha get mean in there and get cut up and deal with some adversity. And those are going to be an entertaining 15 minutes, I think, in the co-main event. All right, main event. 145 pounds. Jeremy Stephens now a fixture at featherweight and right now holding as the favorite -150. The comeback on Josh Emmett at +120. If you've listened to this podcast at all, you know the book on Josh Emmett and the win over Ricardo Lamas after missing weight a couple of months ago. Need a method of victory here, of course, in the round. Jonathan, your thoughts on the main event, Stephens and Emmett this weekend in the O-Town?
Okay, so again, this is a pretty short turnaround for both guys here. So other than the KO of Lamas, Emmett's 4 other UFC fights have all gone the distance, so I don't see this one being any different. I think both guys are going to start off very tactical, especially Emmett, looking to pick his spots and try and mix in some wrestling where he can. But as the fight progresses, Stephens will bring the fight like he always does. But I don't think Emmett falls into the trap. He'll stick to his game plan. This is by far the biggest stage of Emmett's career, but I think he comes through. Let's get some points here. Josh Emmett by unanimous decision.
Josh Emmett by unanimous decision, and you are right that it was really a coming-out party against Lamas because all of his previous UFC fights had gone the distance, and the alpha male guys have been talking about this guy for years, so they feel like they've got a credentialed future champion. Jeremy Stephens, the favorite here, Kenny. I think it's UFC fight number 28 or something like this. I'm starting to think that maybe this guy and not Donald Cerrone is going to be the guy who retires as the UFC's all-time leader in appearances. I think he's going to get to 40.
Wow.
Kenny, your thoughts on Emmett and Stephens in the main event this weekend? Ultimately, who wins and how do they get it done?
Stephens is a savage, man. Listen, I think he is an absolute savage. He's a fighter's fighter, a guy who loves to move forward. He has crazy power. As far as finishing weapons, he's got a little bit more weapons. In my opinion, from what I've seen so far, I feel like Stephens has more weapons of which to win. You know, whether it's flying knees, his elbows, his hooks are just nasty, his uppercut. But I think Josh Emmett, I think we're going to see him fight a little bit more conservatively. I think, exactly like he said, I think he's going to mix in some takedowns. I see him kind of picking and choosing when he decides to strike with someone like Jeremy Stephens. He better be very careful with someone like Emmett and fighting the clinch for a lot of the fight, feint a lot, keep Jeremy Stephens guessing. I think Emmett's a smart fighter. For a guy who doesn't have as much experience as Stephens, I think he's a guy who really sticks to his game plans, really like what Team Alpha Male is doing with him, and he's got to be riding high off of that knockout over Ricardo Lamas, who was the number 3 guy in the division. So Emmett now at number 4 going against Jeremy Stephens. I like Emmett as well by decision here. And I'm a huge Stephens fan, but I think Emmett's going to fight conservatively and outpoint him.
All right. Well, John, we won't pick up points there necessarily, but Kenflo's chasing us right now. So I like that you're going with the dog value there. All right. Quick picks here. No analysis needed. Certainly, by all means, you have hot microphones or phones. I mean, feel free to give your 2 cents. Simply pick a winner. Up to you. This is a deep fight card. You're getting Renan Barão and Brian Kelleher featured prelim. And I think that's on Fox as well. So they're telling me that is on Fox as well. That's a good thing. So Renan Barão back to 135 pounds. Minus 170, Brian Boom Kelleher, 2-1 in the UFC. All those fights in 2017, all of them finishes. He is the plus 140 underdog. Johnny, which way you going, kid? Renan Barão, Brian Kelleher.
I think Barão's ripe for the picking these days, so I got to go with Brian Kelleher for the upset.
Kenflo, Brian Kelleher, plus 140 underdog, the play for John. What do you think about Barão in current form here against Brian Kelleher?
I like Kelleher. I like his style, but I'm going to go with Barão here.
All right, Renan Barão for the flow. All right, and then Alan Jouban, minus 245. Ben Saunders, plus 195. Jouban has lost his last two to Nico Price and Gunnar Nelson. Ben Saunders stopped by Peter Sabata back on May 28th. John, which way you going, Jouban and Saunders?
Yep, so both guys coming off losses, and although it's a home fight for Saunders, I got to go with Jouban to take this one.
All right, Jouban. Kenflo, what do you think? You see that Alan Jouban guy a lot. I know you guys laugh together all the time doing that fucking UFC Now show. You going to pick against him?
I can't. I like both these guys. Saunders is a great guy as well.
Yeah, he is.
I'm gonna go with Jouban here. I think he gets the decision.
Ben Saunders is an awesome dude. He is. And, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, too.
Yes.
10th planet, right?
Yeah.
All right, that's it for the picks, all 7 of them for UFC Orlando. John ZAITSCHEK, man, thank you for stepping up, and thanks for putting in the time as usual. We appreciate it. And I love that picture of you and Dana, especially on President's Day, but maybe I could get a picture with you in Orlando, and that could be my new profile pic. How about that?
John kind of looks like Matt Brown. He kind of looks like Matt Brown a little bit. You ever get that?
I do not. I can't even fight 1% as good as he can either.
Well, you could pretend.
I do see. It's like Matt Brown with glasses. John, thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. We'll have you back for sure.
Thanks, John.
Right? In closing, in honor of Derek Lewis, let's just say we went deep into those picks.
That's good. That is a good final word right there.
That's funny.
I was going to say he didn't congratulate Kenflo on the baby.
No, he's like,
went out with a bang, as the Black Beast did this weekend.
Man.
So we're going to catch up with Longo here in a few minutes. But before we do, Conor McGregor, this guy pushes out a reply on social media, and it's breaking news and newsworthy, and rightfully so, right? And the name he invoked was not Tony Ferguson. It was not Khabib Nurmagomedov. It was not Floyd Mayweather, nor was it Manny Pacquiao. I think to no one's surprise, the name he invoked was Nate Diaz. And there's no doubt this trilogy fight is going to happen at some point in time. I know there's a collection of people, Kenny, who don't believe that Conor's ever going to come back to the UFC. I would almost put a tattoo on the line. I'm not going to do that necessarily today, but I have tried to guarantee people that Conor cares enough about his mixed martial arts legacy and loves competing as an MMA fighter enough to eventually come back to the octagon. Now, I never said he was going to come back in the role of betting underdog. I have always said I think when Conor does come back, it will be strategic, and it won't be against someone like Khabib Nurmagomedov. I think it'll be against someone he'll be favored to beat, like Nate Diaz. I think Conor would be favored to beat Tony Ferguson, so I think that fight would have some appeal to him as well. But I don't know, man. If I pistol to my temple today, I would say who is Conor McGregor's next UFC opponent going to be? I think it's going to be Nate Diaz.
Well, how about another fighter that he'd be favored against? Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, God. I'll be back.
Floyd Mayweather. It's going to happen, Anik. You can't deny it. Floyd Mayweather, he was warming up his fist when he walked into the octagon, kid. It's going to happen. Listen, I think Conor McGregor is going to fight in the UFC again. I actually really liked what he said. I think there's Conor McGregor, the guy who's just a marketing machine for him and his brand. And I also think there's the real Conor McGregor, the guy who is the martial artist, the guy who looks at the sport in a very intelligent manner. I don't think that Nate Diaz fight is next necessarily, but what he's saying to me, what I interpreted is him saying this fight will happen. He knows the fans want to see this. He's basically telling everyone to just relax. I honestly think he's trying to make this fight happen with Floyd Mayweather in the octagon. There's just too much money on the line for him not to do it. He's gonna listen. Am I going to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov for $10 million or $15 million, or am I going to fight a guy who I'm going to beat in 30 seconds for $100 million? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's what he wants to happen. I think that's what he's trying to make happen. Right. But I think it will probably be him against maybe the winner of Khabib and Tony, and then he'll fight Nate Diaz further down the line. So I think he's basically saying, hey, yeah, you know what? Nate Diaz also, in regards to the actual words he used, he was very complimentary of Nate Diaz, and he was saying, hey, this is a fight. This is the fight game where high-level techniques are used, and one mistake, you zig when you should have zagged, and that's going to be the difference here. Nate Diaz, yes, he absolutely did catch me. I'm a better fighter now because of it. I have not forgotten about that loss, and I'll be better, and we will do the trilogy, and we will see who the better man is.
And if you do take Conor at his word, you're right. Yeah. Foremost in his message was be patient and wait for the Diaz trilogy. Right. I do believe if Tony Ferguson beats Khabib Nurmagomedov, that is the fight that will be made. Yeah. I'm not so sure if Khabib Nurmagomedov beats Tony Ferguson that Conor would fight him, but I remain hopeful that his next opponent will be that person. But I'd also like to see Nate Diaz back in the octagon. I'm not sure that Tyron Woodley fight has any legs. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. The whole Mayweather thing is just crazy.
It's insanity.
I mean, I wasn't even gonna pay it any mind. I mean,
I ruined your day. I ruined your day with that comment, I think.
I mean, who's calling that fight? Like, am I calling that fight in the UFC?
It'd be fun. Hey.
I mean, I don't know what you say, though. You're doing an opening on camera on pay-per-view. I don't know exactly what you say. And I guess maybe shades of Randy Couture, James Toney.
Right.
But, I mean, does Conor kick his legs out from under him, try to elbow and give him a scar for life a la Joseph Benavidez against Miguel Torres, right? I mean, like, you know, you want a scar for life, Floyd? Because there is a downside. I know for Floyd be 0-1 in MMA. Right. There is a downside. Conor give you a scar for life if you're not careful. One of those Florian elbows.
Yes. Flobos.
Well, we'll see. At least Conor McGregor's making some noise, which any kind of McGregor noise we will take. So, all right. So we'll see what happens in Orlando with Josh Emmett and Jeremy Stephens. I'm very curious also to talk to Josh Emmett and just get his thoughts on everything that went down in Winnipeg or Edmonton, wherever. I think it was Winnipeg, with the whole weight cut situation for Ricardo Lamas, because, you know, I'm one for absolutes and guarantees, and I can guarantee you that not only is Josh Emmett going to make 146 pounds for this fight in Orlando and make sure he gets ahead of it, I wouldn't be surprised to see him make 145 pounds to make championship weight to try to prove a message and make that extra pound. So, that is the main event coming up in Orlando. A lot of good stuff with Conor McGregor and a lot of good stuff with Ray Longo coming up here in a moment. First, though, give me a minute to tell you about Mattress Firm, if you would. Everyone knows how important stretching is before an event. Well, so does Mattress Firm, except it's with your dollar. Your budget stretches further when you're shopping at America's neighborhood mattress store. It's a true home run, and you'll have a ball. They're the head coaches when it comes to mattress expertise, but know this, they're more than mattress experts. They have a game plan that helps you transform your mattress into a bed. From adjustable bases and sheets to headboards and bedroom decor, they have you literally and figuratively covered up like your favorite cornerback. Go to mattressfirm.com/podcast to see what deals are happening as I read this sentence to you. They even offer you a 120-night sleep trial to ensure perfection and a 120-night low-price guarantee, so you know you paid the perfect price. Talk about a 1-2 punch, a knockout, if you will. So score big with a perfect bed. Head to mattressfirm.com/podcast, mattressfirm.com/podcast to get the play-by-play on how you can monumentally improve your sleep today, tonight, and tomorrow. I wonder what kind of mattress Ray Longo has. Let's ask him. Ray Longo Minute. Let's go.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in this fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
The great Ray Longo now joins us. You got a nice lather going. James Vick messed up my whole radio clock today, so I apologize.
I'm all about Clint Eastwood today, baby. I'm going. Getting the grub going. I want to match Kenny. Play a couple of things. First off, the cornerstone, guys, to good health is a good night's sleep. And for a good night's sleep, you know what you need? You need a good mattress. Come on. Are you kidding?
We got to have him read one of these things. I mean,
Kenny,
that's.
Let me ask you, Kenny, is it me or were you attacking Weidman the whole broadcast?
See, I gotta listen. It was his first time at Fox. I gotta give him a hard time, Ray. Every single time, I have to.
I was like, wow, what am I even looking at? He's attacking the poor guy. You were like a bully.
That's how I loosen people up. You know, I get him joking around. You know, it was great.
He looked like he was very tense to me after he didn't know what to do.
I'm just lucky he didn't hit me. I'm lucky he didn't hit me. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So how did Chris Weidman do? Are you either going to tell me straight if he wasn't good? I assume he was great, though.
He did great. He was funny, man. He's hilarious. He loves doing the French accent. He kept saying Thibaut Gouti. He loves saying that. Yeah.
We got to get Longo on that set, though.
That would be special.
I'll rip that place up.
Telling you. What is it going to take to get you your own half-hour special on Fox? Why has that not happened yet?
Why do you think we save you for the end? You see the comments that we get. The guys are like, "Oh yeah, I had to wait for the whole ending just to hear Ray Longo." See that? It's a trick.
It's all good. Yeah. It's called what do they call that? A loss leader, where you just get the guy in the store, and then once you get him in there, it's all over.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, we said we should probably lead the show with you. I think it would probably help our ratings. But hey, so obviously, if you were watching Weidman and Ken Flo exchange pleasantries on the desk, you must have been tuning in for the fights as well. So I want to ask you about Donald Cerrone and Yancy Medeiros, and from the standpoint of the mid-round hugging, right, and the friendliness between these two fighters. Kenny talked a little bit about it off the shot, not something he can necessarily relate to. You know, he wanted to hurt his opponents. And I just think it's an interesting backdrop sometimes to these fights when there's so much mutual respect that some guy can maybe land or a guy can slip, and then they're hugging. They like each other so much. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the hugging. And I think, Chris alluded to something because I think when he fought Nate Diaz, I picked Nate Diaz. I think, and I don't hold me to this, I think Chris had picked Cerrone, but you see, Nate's not having it, man. He's giving him the finger in between rounds, and I think that's what I think by hugging Cerrone, you put him in a really safe spot in his head, and that's when he's going to be his best.
Yes.
And I think once you get in his face and pressure him and let him know, he's not the bully in there, that's when he has trouble. And so I think the hugging by Yancy Medeiros was an absolute mistake. Hugging Donald Cerrone's grandmother, beautiful thing to watch. I thought that was great. And, hey, you know what? These are two guys that really do like to scrap. So maybe in this instance it's okay because I think they're at different points in their career. But normally not a big fan. And I'm telling you, I think it put Cerrone in a really good spot. And that was part of the problem for Yancy Medeiros.
Ray, you mean you're not going to congratulate someone and high-five them and hug them when they hit you in the face? Hey, great shot, bro. That was awesome the way you rattled my brain. Sick.
Jake Matthews. Hey, thanks for leaving an eyeball for me. You're a good guy. Most guys would have taken both eyeballs. You just took one. Thank you. Yeah, that's what you do. That's always good for your fighting spirit.
Yeah, on the battlefield. Hey, nice shot, dude. You took my shoulder out. That was beautiful. Drop a bomb over here, man. You guys are killing it.
It's a mere flesh wound.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Nice stabbing. That was great. You got me right in the heart. Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
See, I mean, dude, sleep-deprived Ken Flo is on fire, So, Ray, he forgot his cell phone today for the first time in 150 shows. He's had a kid for 10 days. He leaves his phone home.
Yeah, well, there's more of that to come, trust me.
I know. As long as I don't forget my kid, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. What advice could I give you? I think the best advice I could give you is make sure your wife breastfeeds.
She is.
That beautiful.
Yes.
That way you don't have to get up in the middle of the night. Pumping those bottles. Guess who's going to be giving the kid the bottle?
She's a milk factory right now. I tell you.
Mandatory in my house. She had to be breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can't wake up.
I can't help her in that department. These things,
exactly.
these don't work.
Do?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's step one. You're on your way. I like that. You're a good apprentice.
That's right.
And if your daughter all of a sudden, if she starts to reject it, Kenny, you just have to force that breast on her, because otherwise, once that bottle feeding happens, man, it's 50-50.
This is true.
That's right.
This is true.
Kenny, just keep all that literature on how good breastfeeding is for the baby.
Right.
Just plaster that all over the house.
That's right. That's right. She's still doing it.
Kenny, I don't know if you have anything else for Ray. I only had 2 other things. I don't know how much time you have. Aljamain Sterling is fighting Brett Johns, I believe, so I didn't get your thoughts on that matchup. And then I also was just curious if you had any thoughts on Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, and his fight this weekend, because I love watching him fight. I love the character. I'm just not sure I can say championship ceiling for the Black Beast anymore. And at times I thought maybe we were looking at a future UFC champion. So I guess let's start with the Black Beast. Did you see it? And what do you think about him moving forward?
It's funny. I saw the last round, but
okay.
I thought that was like the best he looked, to tell you the truth. Definitely not championship material, but man, who doesn't want to see him and Ngannou fight?
Yeah, I know.
Think that's a great matchup. I think a lot of people would like to see that. It has to be entertaining. And, for whatever it's worth, I think the Beast is having fun in there, and he's definitely powerful. And, who was winning that fight up until the 3rd round? It was 1-1, I think somebody said.
Yeah, I think kind of, sort of. Tybura had some good chances on the mat, but yeah, I thought Derek won the 1st round. Tybura won the 2nd. But here's the thing: if he fights Ngannou, we know it's not going to be a World Jiu-Jitsu Championship fight. You know what I mean? These guys are standing and banging. Period.
Yeah. I thought your advice was good. He's got to get on the mat, and but I don't think that's where he's heading, even in his head. I think he really enjoys that, and if they give him the right matchups, there's gonna be a lot of fun fights. I think that. Yep. Not that they're MMA, perfect, but I think a lot of fans want to see that because, that's what they like, is just 2 guys beating the crap out of each other. And he did land a nice combo at the end, so, power to him.
What is the biggest challenge for a trainer when you're trying to condition a heavyweight? I mean, everyone can't be Cardio Kane, but Matt Serra tells me that Longo is very underrated. We've had this conversation on this show before, but he says you're very underrated when it comes to getting athletes conditioned. You know what they need to do to get themselves in position to go 5 hard 5s. And I know at times on our show, you're critical of even heavyweights who don't have a gas tank after 4 minutes. So how do you get these big guys to be able to sustain a pace over 15 or 25 minutes?
I mean, look, I like to literally, when I have the opportunity, but right now, like, there's so many strength and conditioning coaches and everything's become specialized. I still do it, but I'm not like I used to. But I really used to torture a lot of people, and I think you have to make that training brutal to the point where they don't even want to do it, and then I think it helps them in the long run. But I was huge on hill running, mandatory. I liked a lot of pushing the car. I like that old school stuff, and you mix that in with Tide pads and doing some wrestling or doing some jiu-jitsu while you're tired. I think you train the brain the right way to while you're even exhausted, you still have to move and you still have to execute, and that's the way I used to like to do it. I've kind of taken a back seat, but I think if a guy's conditioned the right way, there's literally no reason for him to get tired.
Yeah. Kenny's just having nightmares of that Versa climber, I think, right now as we speak.
Let me tell you, I was huge on the Versa climber. That's great. I can't, Kenny, I can't get guys to even go back on there anymore.
Really? Yeah,
they come up with excuses. My knee, I don't want the thing hitting the bottom.
Yeah.
It hurts my back. But I'll tell you, see, like Weidman.
It hurts their pride is what it does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Chris Weidman, when he started out, he crushed that Versa climber. Out of everybody, he held the records. I mean, I used to hold competitions and, put together routines, and Weidman crushed that thing. Second was Ally Aquinta. Those guys, younger, were really cardio machines. And now, you get older, you get injuries, you got to work around it. We know we're not 20 years old anymore. But back in the day, I mean, Chris Weidman, cardio-wise, was a beast, man. And I'd love to see him get back to that. But again, injuries prevent stuff. Yeah. And, you got to work around stuff, and it gets a little wacky that way. But when everybody was healthy and they were younger, man, those guys really pushed it, man. They really did.
I will never forget the Versa climber. You know who crushed that Versa climber too, Ray Longo? Kenneth Allen.
I'm telling you,
it was a great training tool, though, man. It was brutal. I love to hate that thing.
I'm going to say I had a VersaClimb. It was the home model, but I'm going to say 30 years ago.
Wow.
I used to consider it like the secret weapon.
It is. It really is.
It really was. But man, people, you go to a gym, and then when I got my second gym, the health club had closed down. I took like 3 VersaClimbers. They were unused.
They collect dust. Everyone's afraid of them.
Nobody wants to get on them.
Yeah, exactly.
It's incredible. But that was a great tool, done the right way in intervals and mixed in with other stuff. I don't think you could beat it, man. I really don't.
We got to come up with a VersaClimber.
Sarah was another guy, man. If I didn't torture him with the conditioning, he just wasn't happy. And he never felt like if I didn't do X, Y, and Z with him before a fight, he would feel way off. He needed to be tortured. That's what he embraced, and it worked out great for him.
All right, I'll get you out of here on this. 30 seconds. I know preparations are underway for Ally Quinta for Paul Felder and for Aljamain Sterling against Brett John. So those are the 2 big fights on your immediate horizon, at least in the UFC, yes?
Well, I have April 7th. Great fight, tough fight. I was with him last night. He looked phenomenal. And then on the 21st, remember, I got Aljamain, I got Merab, and I've been working with this Japanese guy, Sasaki. I don't know if you know Uka Sasaki. He's a 120.
Oh, yeah, Uka, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love this kid. Really, really good. Very technical. I really believe I tightened up a lot in his game in a short period of time. And he's got a really tough fight against Magomed Bilatov, but I think it's going to be an entertaining fight. This kid's really, really good. And we're just starting to gel right about now. So
nice.
I think it's going to be a great night. So we got 3 guys that night. So
wow,
I'm glad it's on the East Coast, and I'm going to bring a lot of help with me.
Yeah, do it. That's a big flyweight fight, and Uluka Sasai, that's a big frame for 125 pounds.
Tall for 125 pounds.
The guy's 6 foot.
It's crazy. I'm
going to tell you, he just had a great sparring session last week, and I'm really psyched for this guy. He's a great guy, too. What a polite...
Ray always had a lot of potential. I'm glad he's working with you because I always felt like he was one of those guys with so much potential, just needed the right training. So that's awesome. Yeah.
I think I brought out some really good stuff with him. I really do. I need to... he's really good. He's a pleasure to work with. I have to say I really enjoy working with him. He's like a sponge. There's a communication gap, but I've known his manager for like 25 years. So I'm glad he's been coming over and getting to work because there's so many guys his weight, to work with. And between Aljo, Merab, and him, it's a great camp.
Yeah. No, I bet it is. Now just stick him on a fucking VersaClimber and you'll be all set.
But see, Sasaki will get on the VersaClimber because he's new. You see, the new guys,
they don't know better. They just go, okay, coach.
As soon as they get comfortable with me, Kenny, now go fuck yourself. I'm not going on again.
That's funny.
Well, gracious of you, as is the case every damn Monday, to interrupt your training for us. We love you. We hope to see you soon. We'll see. I guess we'll see you in Brooklyn, if not sooner, my man. Have a great week.
Awesome, buddy. Thanks a lot, man.
Take care, Ray.
Take it easy, Kenny.
The Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast, and that's a big fight. Uluka Sasaki and Magomed Bibulatov at 125 pounds. All right, now joining us on the guest line. And it's got to be a good Monday to wake up as the Texecutioner, James Vick. He moves to 9-1 in the UFC with a victory over Francisco Trinaldo. James Vick is with us after another big UFC win. My man, I appreciate the time as always, especially here on Monday after the fight. How you doing today? I'd imagine pretty well.
Yes, sir. How y'all guys doing? It feels great.
We're doing well, man. Well, I didn't want to text you yesterday, but I was sending you good vibes here from South Florida. I'm happy for you getting through this challenge. Certainly not unlike yourself, this Brazilian Francisco Trinaldo, not a guy in the top 10 that people are calling out all the time. Dangerous fight nonetheless, and you got past a guy who had won 8 of 9 coming in. You got to feel pretty good about this W. I know you didn't get the finish, but all things considered, moving on up, which is what you're looking for.
Yeah, it was good. I wish I would have got the finish. It would have obviously made a bigger statement for me, but I really, didn't take much damage in the fight, and I controlled the distance, and I'm not gonna apologize for a lot of people. You should stand there. I'm not a punching bag. I'm not gonna stand there like a retard and fight. I felt like I moved and I had a good game plan, and it worked out perfect. And he couldn't get inside on me, and
Right.
I felt like everything I did came went according to plan. So, except, I didn't get to finish. When I rocked him in the first round, I dropped him. I rushed it a little bit, and then I let him get underneath me and change levels for the takedown. I think I should have been a little more patient there. Maybe I could have gotten it, but it turned out great.
Got to show off your grappling a little bit defensively. Was that choke close at all? It didn't seem like anything was imminent there.
No, it really wasn't close at all. I really didn't feel threatened at all. That's why, I saw the ref, looking at me. I gave him the thumbs up to make sure he knew.
Right.
I was more worried about when he was attempting that head and arm triangle. And I heard my coach scream, "Get your elbow down, get your elbow down." Because, I know he's finished, he has 3 UFC wins, by head and arm triangle. And when he went for that move, I got the elbow and I turned, I was ready to even give my back up before let him get to that position, because I knew how strong he was there.
So you dislocated a finger early on in the fight, and I wonder if this fight had been 5 rounds, how you would have perhaps been forced to approach those championship rounds. But in some respects, you had a lead here that you could sit on. How do you think things would have changed if there was more fight time after the injury than there was?
I think they would have been the same as far as I thought. Basically, it turned out exactly how I thought, as far as exactly what I said. That Ronaldo's a super tough guy. He's mentally strong as they come. He's a warrior. But I have all those attributes as well. Plus, I have more. And that's pretty much what it was. I think will-wise and determination, we were both, pretty close to level. I mean, he was a warrior. And, I'm a warrior, but I knew that my skill set was too much, and I felt like with my kicks and my jab and my movement, I could have kept him on the outside all night if we would have went 10 rounds. I felt like the more he came in to close the distance, he landed a few shots, but it was only a time before I was going to land something big, So
right.
I just feel like, I could have kept him out all night if I had to.
So, James, you've been calling out these guys in the top 10 for a little while now. I believe you beat Trinaldo, who was number 14, I think, in the world. Do you think this puts you in a position now where they can't deny you that chance?
I think that, I feel, I kind of feel bad for Sean Shelby at this point, because he wants to, he is trying to give me a chance. I appreciate what he's doing. He is trying to give me a chance. They don't want to fight. These dudes don't want to fight me, and they want to, your name's not big enough. You're not ranked high enough. There's always some excuse. They don't want to fight. So, basically, the UFC is going to have to force these guys to fight me. That's the only way around it. I don't think any of them is going to voluntarily fight me. So we'll see how it plays out. Or they're going to expect me to take a fight with them on 2 weeks' notice or some shit like that, because one of their opponents pulled out, and then they'll agree to fight me, on some 2 week notice shit, because they're in a way they're going to want to give me a full camp.
And James, I know you specifically called out Chiesa and Lee. Why those guys? Why are those the right matchups for you?
The reason why I called these guys, first of all, Michael Chiesa beat me 6 years ago in Ultimate Fighter, so I've always wanted to rematch that fight, of course. But the thing is that I'm not just randomly calling these guys out for no reason. Obviously they're ranked above me, so I do want to fight all of them. But the thing is Sean Shelby wanted to make those fights. They really wanted to make the Chiesa fight, because he's like, it makes the time frame, from the time he was looking to fight, the time you were looking to fight, it makes sense. The rematch, there's a good storyline. It makes sense. Chiesa didn't want to fight. They really wanted to make the Kevin Lee fight. That's the second time Kevin Lee's turned out to fight with me. They don't want to fight. It's not that I'm just. It just pisses me off when I'm saying yes, I'm 100% green to fight these guys, and they won't agree.
James Vick with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. So it is interesting, the dilemma that I think a lot of fighters are in, right? And I've said to you privately, and maybe even here, like, dude, I'm not fighting James Vick, right? If I'm at 150, I'm not fighting a guy that's 6'3" tall. I'd imagine, though, for you, right? Like, let's say you said, all right, April 7th, Khabib Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson are going to fight. I'm going to try to be ready, or as ready as I possibly can be, for April 7th in the event that maybe there's an opportunity there. But for a guy like you, isn't it sort of a systematic work your body down to 56 or 55? Wouldn't you have to almost enter into sort of a training camp situation right now to make that a reality?
Yeah, possibly. And also, honestly, I'm going, I'm 100%. That's been on the back of my mind, 100% as far as what if one of those guys get hurt? But also I have to think about this is that this is what I'm going to do to potentially, see if that's even a remote possibility. I'm going to call Sean Shelby and I'm going to talk to him in a couple of days.
Right.
I'm going to see how my body feels in a couple of days, and I'm going to call him and I'm going to be like, I know it's a long shot, but is it realistic? Because I also have a baby due April 5th. My son is due.
Forget about it.
And but you know what? Obviously, my son will understand if his dad gets a world title opportunity and takes the fight. I don't think he's going to be mad at me for go up there and make $500,000, and become a world champion. But I would totally, be ready for that. If I ask Sean, if they say, dude, I know that's a long shot, but is it a possibility? Should someone of them get hurt in a couple weeks? But I know there's other guys on the card that are, Chiesa and I don't know if they're on that card, but they're the one after. Al Quintas ranked 10. He's on that card. Who's to say they wouldn't give them the fight because they're already on the card? You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I'm going to talk to Sean and I'm going to see what he says for sure.
Right. No, and I think everything you say makes sense. I look at that April 7th date, and if I'm not mistaken, you have Iaquinta Felder, Chiesa Pettis, and Nurmagomedov Ferguson, right? So that if one of those 6 even fell out, right, you could step into a potentially a big fight opportunity there. But it's tough because, to your point, maybe some of these guys would like to fight you, but they would like to do it on their terms, which might be 2.5 weeks notice for you.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna. Here's the thing: I'm not gonna fight on. I've just fought my 4th fight in a year, and don't get me wrong, I'm pretty sure I'm healthy. I mean, my arm's a little beat up from getting kicked in my leg, but these are common fight injuries. It ain't nothing serious. I'll be back in the gym doing something by the end of the week. It's, my finger is dislocated, but I'm pretty sure it's not broke. It's just kind of swelled and purple now, but it's not. It ain't nothing I ain't used to, but I'm not gonna step in and fight someone on 2 weeks' notice. It's not for a world title fight. There ain't no way. Not at this point in my career. I've earned that right not to. And unless they're offering they better come to the table with some serious money if they want me to step in and fight, whoever on 2 weeks because just alone on the weight cut. You know what I'm saying? If they wanted to meet me at 170, I would consider that. On 2 weeks because I'm always in shape. I can go 3 rounds any day of the week. I train year round twice a day. But I'm not going to kill myself cutting that weight for the same amount of money that I could do for a full camp, especially when I'm not hurting for money right now. I'm very smart with my money, and I've fought 4 times in a year and I've won 4 fights. And unless it's for a major opportunity, and I was just ranked number 12. I'm assuming I'm going to be ranked around number 10 or so. Unless it's for a top 5 guy, I'm not going to do that at this point.
No, and it makes sense. And again, a lot of this is just me thinking out loud because I know you've been very vocal about trying to spin this thing forward. And I remember when you say I'm 7-1 in the UFC, 8-1 in the UFC. Now you're 9-1 in the UFC, and you're taking out tough guys. So putting a bow on this Trinaldo fight, I don't know if you immediately go back and watch those 15 minutes or not, but what was the biggest takeaway for you or for Lloyd Irvin in terms of what you guys need to shore up as you move up the ladder and take your shots at this division's elite?
I mean, to me, everything worked out exactly the way I thought it would. And my coach, Lloyd Irvin, he was very happy with the performance. I mean, we knew Trinaldo's not a joke. The dude can fight. I mean, I didn't get to finish, but I mean, I beat Trinaldo. In my opinion, I beat Trinaldo way easier than Kevin Lee did. He landed a lucky-ass head kick after he got dropped twice in the first round and almost finished with a body shot. And I took everything Trinaldo had. He was a decent puncher. He wasn't as strong as people said he was in the clinch and stuff like that. I know he's supposed to be real physically. So he was strong, but he wasn't what I thought. And I got the body lock and I put him down pretty easily. I didn't, but I will say one thing: he didn't get tired. Like the rumor on his cardio was not true. Like the dude had a tank, and I mean he got tired, but he knows how to suck it up. I was very impressed with that. He just had a warrior spirit. Obviously we all got stuff we need to work on. I know everyone's like, oh well, Vick drops his hands, he keeps his chin in the air too much. He moves circles the wrong direction. But I agree, we all got stuff we need to work on, but at the end of the day, my awkwardness is in weird timing and my awkward movements and the shit I do has helped me more than it's ever hurt me.
Yeah. No,
So
I think that's
I'm not gonna change what I'm doing, but I've added stuff. I mean, y'all see I'm progressing. I mean, I started doing Taekwondo 2 years ago, and now I'm getting really good at it. I'm landing side kicks, I'm landing front kicks. I'm landing side kicks to the face. I 2 years ago I didn't even throw a side kick. I'm progressing and I'm getting better. I hit 2 takedowns last night. I'm evolving. I didn't even go for takedowns until the Abel Trujillo fight was the first takedown I ever had in my UFC career. I'm evolving and I'm getting better because I'm training. I may be 30 years old now, about to be 31 this Friday, but I'm training harder than these 20-year-olds are training. I'm still training harder than them, and I'm progressing every day, and I'm getting better every day.
And you're 9-1 in the UFC at 155 pounds, and you got a baby boy coming on April 5th. And just like this guy picking winners, I mean, you're the most avid MMA sports bettor among any fighter on this roster. He basically guaranteed to the masses that he was having a boy and not a girl. You hit on that one as well. I mean, you got a pick to click for the listeners for this Orlando show, or have you not handicapped the card yet?
Okay, give me the breakdown. Who we got?
All right, so I know you know Jeremy Stevens well. He's a slight favorite against Josh Emmett. We got Tisha Torres and Jessica Andrade in the co-main event. Ovince St. Preux and Ilir Latifi is a pick'em fight right now. I mean, you got to have a lean on some of these for me.
Okay, man. I'm gonna go, man. I hate to say this, because Jeremy Stevens is my boy, but if I have to bet my money, I'm gonna edge it towards Emmett.
Okay,
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go with Jessica Andrade. I think that skill-wise, Tisha Torres' striking is vicious. She's athletic, but I don't think she has the grit in her and the meanness and the will to win that Andrade has. And then I'm going with OSP. I think that Latifi's striking isn't as good, and the wrestling is good, but he's not the athlete. And OSP has too much power, in his left leg and his left hand, and I think that OSP is going to win that fight.
Beautiful, I love it. The budding analyst James Vick. All right, thank you for the time, man. Our sincerest congratulations. We love watching you evolve and keep on winning. Hope everything goes well with the baby boy, and we look forward to that next UFC fight, which undoubtedly will be a big one for you, buddy. Thank you for giving us a few minutes today. We appreciate you.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all support, man. I appreciate it.
Congrats, James.
All right, there he is, the Texecutioner, James Vick, with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. I'll never forget getting ready for the Ultimate Fighter Live, the finale, and Vick was injured. He wasn't fighting. The final fight was Ali Aquinta and Michael Chiesa. And so I'm walking into the sports book, and there's James Vick. And he's like, dude, Ali Aquinta could barely walk, and Michael Chiesa's plus 300. So he empties his wallet on Chiesa, and sure enough, cashed on Chiesa that night as a 3-1 underdog. So good stuff there from Jimmy Vick. Now 9-1 inside that UFC octagon. All right, that is going to do it for today. Thank you to our guests, James Vick, Ray Longo, John ZAITSCHEK on the picks. Next week is a pay-per-view week. We're already there, so we'll get you ready for UFC 222, Cyborg versus Kunitskaya, Brian T. City Ortega taking on Frankie Edgar. All of that coming your way. Flo with another 6 or 7 picks for you next Monday. Until then, Flo, back to the diapers. How are the diapers going? Is she putting on a little bit of weight or what?
She is. She's putting on a lot of weight, man. She initially the first 2 weeks they lose a lot of their birth weight, but she gained it right back. She's eating so good, man. She's a beast. She's strong.
Good. And not too much weight because, as a woman.
Well, we want to keep her at 115 pounds. I think she's already ranked in the top 15, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Well, we're excited for you, and we're excited to have you back on Monday. Bring the cell phone next week if you want.
I'm sorry.
I kind of like this though. Undivided attention. You got to look at this face for a full hour. All right, we got to go. Thank you to Ben Wasoric, Danny, everybody else, the Fox Sports squad. For the Flow, I'm John Anik. Thank you all for listening, for watching, for subscribing. We look forward to it very much. Talking to you next Monday. Until then, yo later.
The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.